Does life imitate art? Does art imitate life? Take a look in the mirror to find the true answer. What do I know? How should I go? Themes and memes. What do they mean? Why are they here? From whence do they come?
You're listening to Themes and Memes, a different kind of movie review, but actually right now you're not going to be listening to a review. I was planning on seeing the movie Chappie, but that didn't quite work out, and so Adam and I decided to do a little off-the-cuff conversation and record it here today, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. So here it is for your listening pleasure, this what we're calling the cult of celebrity worship. Hope you enjoy it. Well, why don't I just start by saying that last night I saw the movie Fast and Furious 7, and I didn't want to, but I did, and it got me to thinking about the way that action movies work, because, again, there wasn't anything else to think about in the movie, so I had to think about something, and it seemed to me as though there's a reason why people are able to suspend disbelief in action movies, and everybody knows how ridiculous action movies are. These situations that would never even be possible to happen in real life. For instance, when there's a fight, people are getting hit with lead pipes 5 times and they're still going, things like that. And I think that maybe one of the reasons that people are able to suspend disbelief and keep watching and enjoy it, even though it's completely ridiculous, is that they're relating to the characters and they want to know what the character's story, where it's going, and they get so involved in that, the human element of things, that they kind of just don't think about how ridiculous it is, and they get caught up and they want to know what happens next.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a dynamic which has been present throughout all of human history in terms of arts and drama and the muses and theatre and all that kind of, all those types of things. But it really has been taken to a whole new level with the films that we're now seeing, where I think a lot of this suspension of disbelief that you're referencing there comes from the fact that people have been really drawn into identifying with these characters on a very deep level, especially through franchise series, like the Fast and Furious series. We've got 7 films now. And so they really do get drawn into identifying with the characters and wanting to know, what's going to happen to people and who's going to live, who's going to die, all these types of questions. And there's also this element of just general sort of celebrity worship where people are so used to seeing these same faces pulling off these amazing stunts that they, on some perhaps subconscious or unconscious level, have begun to view these people as being almost superhuman in some way, and almost being really sort of different and being really capable and being really smart and amazing and being able to actually do all of these things. I mean, people, as you say, people genuinely do tend to suspend their disbelief with the ridiculousness of the action that we're now seeing in these films, because it is so ridiculous, like you say. I mean, it's completely implausible, but people don't seem to complain about that.
And you're saying that carries over into the real life of who that actor is, and that people believe that actor is larger than life.
Well, it seems to, because I mean, it's like if you listen to conversations, especially with not so much with men, but I think more with women, wherever it is, in the workplace, on the street, in the pub, you have women occasionally talking about celebrities and films and how much they adore the latest hunk, whatever it is, the Channing Tatum or the Ryan Gosling or the Tom Cruise, you name it, And they speak about these actors as people in a way that
It's like it's somebody they know, like a friend or a friend of a friend, or somebody that they generally know in real life somehow.
Yeah, exactly, and they actually have some kind of relationship with these celebrity actors, and they seem to have forgotten that everything about that person, everything you see of them, is scripted. Everything that you've ever seen of them has been carefully molded, manufactured, and scripted, and produced. The fashion, the type of things they say, the types of characters they play. All of this stuff has been designed for them. It is absolutely in no way a true representation of what that person actually is. It's all been designed for them, and yet people still, I think, again, more females more so than men, but they do really get caught up with identifying with that person as if they do actually embody all of the traits which they've become familiar with through that person's acting career. Especially with the alpha male types, where they actually really do think that this guy is like capable of doing all these amazing things, and it's just this amazingly smart, intelligent, sensitive, attractive, tough when he needs to be, emotional and soft when he needs to be, just absolutely perfect man. And it's a complete fantasy, a complete fabrication. But nonetheless, people do suspend their disbelief, and they really do identify with these people as if they're something almost superhuman in a way, I suppose.
With the celebrity culture, you get the real life story of the actor as well, and even that is a fabrication. What you hear in the tabloids, that's all put out there by publicists to a large extent, just to be good PR for the celebrity, which is only a persona. So it gets really interesting when you realize that a celebrity has to sell themselves and their persona, and part of the way they do that is by getting people to form a personal relationship with that, or in their own mind. They don't actually have a personal relationship. It's only in their own head that they do. And then that's just massaged and by all this PR silliness that you hear on like TMZ and stuff. So much of that stuff I know isn't real. It's just put out there just to gather interest for the persona that is whatever celebrity they're talking about.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I mean one of the documentaries that covers some of these issues, and which I would really recommend to people, is a documentary called Starsuckers, and it covers a lot of different aspects of the sort of mass obsession with celebrities and mass media, and the sort of the culture of mass media, and especially sort of tabloidism and all this kind of stuff. And one of the things that it brings out really well is the fact that all these kind of tabloid magazines and women's magazines and all these types of publications which focus on the lives of celebrities and all the drama and all this kind of stuff is, most of the material is completely manufactured, and they actually show they demonstrate how an average person can just approach one of these papers with a completely bogus story that they've made up and sell them the story with very flimsy, if any, evidence at all.
That's right.
I paid quite a lot of money for it.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and then it's like on the next day, it's on the headline of one of these what we call kind of red top papers in the UK, one of these tabloid papers. It's literally it's on the front page. It's some fabrication that some person has just made up to sell money, or perhaps even in some cases the publicist of that person.
Exactly. I would venture to guess when those fake stories pop up without the creation of the publicist or a PR firm or wherever, they pop up from some buyer from the public, that the publicist and the celebrity would go with it, even if it's like a bad, seemingly on the surface bad story. They're like, well, it gets attention, so let's roll with it. You know what I mean? I bet that happens.
Oh, absolutely, and especially in, I suppose, well, in both the US and the UK, you have so many of these situations where a lot of the celebrities that are really popular are not really famous for having any particular talent, because they kind of got this kind of Paris Hilton thing going on, where they're just kind of famous for being famous. They've somehow worked their way into stardom and into the world of celebrity just by kind of knowing the right people and just making a lot of fuss through all these sort of PR tactics and techniques, to the point where people do actually become obsessed with them as if they've got some kind of amazing talent or something like that.
Well,
so, in that case, any it's like the saying goes, any publicity is good publicity. I think
a lot of
these people,
a lot of those reality stars you're talking about are famous not because people like them, but because people actually hate them, but they enjoy hating them. It's it's like the bad guy you love to hate. This is again, you think you have a personal relationship with them, so it would be equivalent to a neighbor or a friend that you have that you don't actually, a disingenuous friend that people who have, neuroses and personal problems, they hold on to friends that aren't actually friends, and they enjoy that because a lot of people are neurotic these days. But anyway, it's that in the celebrity sense. It's like with that, what's that? The Kardashians, they epitomize this because people who watch the shows watch it not because they have respect for them, like, oh yeah, they have their own clothing line, they make a lot of money, oh look, they're succeeding. There's that sort of stuff thrown in, sort of peppered in there. But what's really going on is that the audience hates the Kardashians, and they like to feel morally superior because people like feeling better about themselves, and they like to demean other people and feel better by demeaning others, and as a completely dysfunctional way to feel good about oneself. But that's what's happening, I would argue.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely thought that was the case when Big Brother was at the peak of its popularity in the UK. A lot of people would sort of take the approach or take the attitude that, oh, this is just kind of just the lowest common denominator nonsense. They're just scraping the bottom of the barrel here. This is just really cheap, crappy television. But they'd watch it nonetheless. So that they could bitch about it and complain about it and talk about all the different characters that they hated. Talk about how they were so above all that stuff.
Yeah,
and
sure.
how ridiculous all it was. But nonetheless, they're still watching it.
Yeah, I know.
I know. That's the bottom line. They're still getting into it, and they're still getting emotionally invested in what's happening.
Yes.
On one level or another, whether they realize it or not.
Yeah, that's the big point to make too. Emotional investment. People are putting energy into this. Literally, you're spending your time and putting your emotional energy into these programs, into these people who are people. Yes, they're real people, but again, they're personas. What you know of them is only a persona. To go deeper with the persona thing, just because I feel like I need to right now, like, I feel that some of these celebrities, and probably especially the reality stars, are likely more prone to this. Who knows? But the persona starts getting built around them. You have the actor, you have the celebrity, and their real personal life, which no one knows, and then the persona, which is public, which everybody knows, and they think that's the whole truth. I would venture to guess that a lot of celebrities start believing their own publicity. They start believing in the persona, and they start believing that's really them, and so their real, who they actually might be, disappears, and they become a persona.
Well, that's so interesting, because I think this happens especially with younger actors. Child actors more so the case, but actors who gained fame and notoriety at, say, a young age, say late teens or early 20s perhaps. I think that really does happen, where they start to basically buy and believe their own press.
Yeah. To
the point where they reach a point, usually within the sort of mid to late 20s, where they have some kind of nervous breakdown, some kind of personal crisis, where they're completely unsure of their identity. And we've seen this so many times with, like, Britney Spears, it was a classic case. A lot of them committing suicide with the whole 27 Club, that theme. I mean, obviously there's some more depth to that kind of concept, which is kind of another issue altogether. But you do have this trend where a lot of the celebrities who've gained a lot of fame and popularity at a young age do reach a point in their sort of mid to late 20s where they sort of go through an identity crisis, because they've kind of bought their press. They've been in this whirlwind of fame and of this sort of higher social status and of money and of absolute opulence and indulgence, but also being controlled and being told to read scripts and act a certain way all the time. And I think it does drive people to a state of kind of neurotic breakdown, which we've seen with so many of these actors. I mean, one thing I came across recently, which I didn't actually know about until very recently, was what's his face from Transformers, the Shia Lebouf.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Shia Lebouf.
Yeah.
He had some kind of weird thing in like LA where he went and did he called it an art exhibition, and he sort of locked himself inside this tent and would allow members of the public to come and view him with a paper bag over his head that said, "I am no longer famous," or "I'm not famous anymore." And people would literally just line up on the street and just go and sit there in this kind of room with him. He would just sit there staring, not saying anything at all, just with this paper bag on his head. And he did this for like 5 or 6 days in a row or something like that.
Wow.
And there was another issue where he like flipped out at some media conference awards ceremony type event. I can't remember what the details were, but yeah, again, I think he was 27, 28 when this happened.
Yeah.
And so you've got someone who's kind of, grown up in the spotlight, I suppose, or has been in the spotlight at least from quite a young age, perhaps reaching some point of nervous breakdown due to the pressures that are put on them and trying to, having such a confused identity for so many years, and where your whole life is just about reading scripts and trying to be someone else and trying to act a certain way and being controlled by all these directors and producers and studios and being told what to do. And yeah, I mean, we've seen this with a few people, and it does seem to sort of happen around a certain point in the person's life. Yeah,
young people have such a problem with identity just to begin with. It doesn't matter if they're a celebrity or not. So it's hard to imagine being so young and in such a bizarre situation where you are famous and there is all this press about you and all the sorts of weirdness is going on behind the scenes. It's hard to even imagine what that would be like, but we can guess that it would be crazy, and from again the aftershocks of what we've seen in real life with child actors seems to point in that dark direction, and it's not good.
It does. Well, yeah, and it's not just with the young ones as well. You do see some older celebrities having similar sort of experiences, I suppose, where they'll go and it'll be something during some kind of awards ceremony or some kind of PR thing or whatever, and they'll do or say something that is really, really kind of weird and out of left field and strange, and that sort of goes viral, of course, and everyone's talking about it and no one can make sense of it, and it almost seems to be some kind of cryptic coded message or some kind of Freudian slip or something just really, really weird. And I think that just speaks to the fact that these people, are living and existing in such a highly controlled, highly scripted environment their whole lives, and that their true identity and their true desires and their true sort of feelings are not being sort of catered to, and they're not being allowed to really be who they want to be or express their own opinions or on anything. And I think they feel controlled a lot, frustrated a lot of the time.
They're doing what they can to at least take something back. And I kind of feel that on that same note, that celebrities that you just don't see anymore, like some famous person that hasn't been in a movie for a while, and maybe you'll think of it like, oh, they haven't been in a movie for a while, and then they never end up being in any other movies. I tend to think that sometimes people just like drop out of this whole thing because they can't handle it anymore, and then they're not given work anymore because their job is to do what they're told and to say they're told who they are. And if you can't handle that, then we'll find somebody else to do the job. Thank you.
Well, I think that's also something that happens, because I was actually thinking about this the other day. For example, Kevin Costner is an interesting one, because I think in his earlier films he had a lot more input. I mean, especially with the most famous one, of course, Dances with Wolves. He produced that, he starred in that, he directed that. That was his baby, and it was a fantastic film as well. And there was he did a few other films after that. But I think, from what I understand anyway, he seemed to have a lot more kind of editorial, directorial input into the work that he was doing, but then he kind of dropped off the radar all of a sudden, and he's only recently sort of experienced a resurgence in his popularity and career and started appearing in films again. And I think perhaps we could be looking at a similar situation where he was used to kind of being in the driver's seat, and then was basically kind of told at some point, look, if you want to maintain your career and if you want to retain a job in this industry, you're going to start doing what you're told. And perhaps he said, well, no, screw you. I'm not going along with this. And that's why we didn't see him for so long.
Yeah, could have been.
Ran out of money or changed his mind or decided to kind of rejoin the club or whatever the case may be. I think this does go along because we do see this quite a lot, actually, with quite famous actors who've been in good films just disappearing off the radar. Yeah. And sometimes they don't come back. Sometimes they do.
Yeah. But and then you've got the other trend where you'll have one actor that seems to be in like 5 different movies at once, and they'll do that for like a year or 2 all in a row. And I would probably say that those are the complete yes men and yes women. They're like doing exactly what they're told, and they're getting rewarded for it in roles, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, Mark Wahlberg was a classic example of this recently. There was a point in time, I think within the past few years, where he did. I mean, it seemed like he was in a film a month for about 18 months there. You know? Yeah. I lost count. It was crazy. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, obviously, he's a yes man.
You would think so.
I mean, and I think this is the difference you see with actors. I mean, I don't know. He kind of did disappear for a while and was only in a few sort of really low key films over maybe a course of 10 years or so. But nonetheless,
it just seems like at some point a deal is struck, and he's like, okay, we're going to go with this, and here's our whole marketing plan for my persona, and then you're going to keep getting roles. Don't worry, they're going to keep coming in. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I think there's probably a process that a lot of these actors have to go through with making peace with the fact that they are in this industry and this is how this industry works. And if you want to maintain a career, if you want to get paid the big money, and you want to live the good life and be able to do what it is you love to do, which is act, then you're going to have to play ball. And I think some of these actors struggle with this and sort of in and out of the picture over a course of years or over the course of a career or whatever. But, there's a whole spectrum there. You have people who are, famous from day one and sort of maintain that fame and notoriety throughout, like people like Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt, who are just, they're always in something. Mm-hmm. And then you sort of have other actors who sort of come and go here and there. And so I think that there's a process of personal sort of, I guess, sort of struggle and sort of a personal journey, and these actors having to come to terms with the reality of the situation. And
that is their real personal life. Their real personal life involves a lot of soul searching of whether they want to let go of who they are publicly and pretend publicly like they're somebody they're not. Are they cool with that? Is that okay? Is it okay for me to be not only an actor in the films I'm in, but an actor in my real life where the general public thinks I'm somebody who I'm not, and I'll just say and do anything because, that's part of who I am, which is not part of who I am. Am I okay with that?
Yeah. And again, there's a whole spectrum of people there, where you've got people who seem to be okay with it from day one and just do what they're told, and those are of course the most famous actors, the ones who are always in big
they're always around
films. They're always around. They're always in something. Yeah. People always go and see their films. And so,
and I would probably say that they're the ones who are most deluded into actually believing that their persona is real. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
They actually believe that.
Yeah, I mean, look at. If you look at the career of Tom Cruise and the kind of the heroic alpha male characters that he's always played in one form or another, and then look at some of his supposed real life, incidents where he's been, caught on camera or doing something, or he goes into
even his involvement in Scientology, like he believes he has these special powers, he's a special person, and all that.
This is what I'm getting at. Yeah, I mean, when you do actually, I've seen interviews with him. He's not a dumb guy by any stretch of the imagination. He is quite a smart guy from what I can see. But I've seen him in sort of interviews on certain subjects, social issues and political issues and things like that. And he really does kind of yeah,
Just because someone's smart doesn't mean that they're not deluded. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. He's obviously not obviously an intelligent guy, but when you look at the way he comes across in his interviews, he really does believe that he is something special, that he is something more than the average person, that he possesses something that other people don't in terms of his intelligence or his capabilities or whatever. You know, I mean, it's beyond confidence. You know, it's arrogance, and it's arrogance.
It's hubris in a way, really. It gets there.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you start thinking you're a god or something like that.
Yeah,
it's crazy. And then let's bring this back to the other side of the whole concept here, to the public and the public's belief in all of this, because this is all an act. It's all pretend. It's just a bunch of personas. It's not the real person. It's a persona. It's all made up. It's exterior. But the public really does believe all this stuff. And anything that any celebrity is going to say publicly on TV, any little canned soundbite you hear them in an interview, you think that's coming from them. You think that they're saying that genuinely. So do you have any other thoughts on that, Adam?
Well, yeah, it is frustrating, actually.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you see these people who high-level, well-known celebrities who are getting involved in certain socio-political type causes, you know, whether it's humanitarian stuff or sort of, you know, charity type stuff or whatever the case may be. You know, people just get so excited about this, and oh my gosh, look at all the great work he's doing outside of his acting career, and he's doing this and doing that, and look at Madonna adopting babies from Africa, or George Clooney, the Council on Foreign Relations, or whatever the case may be, and people just seem to forget the basic fact that this person is an actor. This is what they do for a living. This is, you know,
and this is all it's all good PR for them as well. Yeah.
I mean, the people forget that their entire life is a stage, really. You know, they never really step off the stage. You know, these big actors have been doing it for so long, like we talked about before, when they actually start to buy into the persona and start to actually be that sort of person in real life in some way. I guess, you know, there's sort of different dynamics going on here, but what I'm trying to say is you know, that people still forget that regardless of whatever cause they're, you know, pontificating about or promoting, you know, and that is supposedly some real genuine interest of their own. They're still actors. You know, the job is still to read scripts, to act a certain way, and to convince you, to deliver a convincing, emotive, entertaining, exciting, whatever it is, performance.
And they're the perfect living billboards too. Because everybody's looking at them. Everybody's looking at them. So any given organization that wants good press wants to go to a celebrity and say, hey, can you mention us? Or, hey, can you mention our cause, please? It would really help us out.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you said. It's like a walking billboard. You know, it's like the most prime real estate possible in the marketing world. And organizations will just walk up to these people and say, "Hey, can we stick our banner on your
on your butt?"
Exactly. That's basically what's going on here. Yeah, sure. You know, this is what I do for a living. You know, I'll work for you. Sure. You know, you give me something in return, whatever it may be, or, you know, this is good for my publicity or my career in some way. So I'll do that for you. I'll act in the way that you want me to act, and I will get people to identify with whatever cause you're promoting. You know?
And then this gets into the area of the commodification of human beings. And again, it's just only a persona, but you know, it is still a human that's been made into a persona, and a human made into a commodity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Complete commodification of human beings, and this is, I think, why we see the fallout that we see in terms of especially the younger celebrities who have not been given a chance to really assert or explore their own identities, and who have these nervous breakdowns or suicides, and even some of the older ones who have these, committing suicide or just having these weird freakouts in interviews where they say something really, really weird. I think this is due to the commodification that you were referencing there, and that people are getting to a point where they literally feel as if they have no autonomy of their own.
Yeah, because people aren't products, and they take offense to it. An actual human being does. So yeah, people leave the fold, and they come and they go, and they can't handle it anymore. So I don't know. With that, I think let's wrap up this little conversation, and I'm pleased with what we had to say here, Adam. I think the listeners will like this.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was a spontaneous little discussion here, guys, because we'd actually originally planned to do a review of the film Chappie, which we will be doing very, very shortly, but that wasn't possible. So we just decided to have a little spontaneous chat and put that up for you guys to listen to. So I hope people enjoyed it. Yeah. It's been an interesting talk, and I'm sure we could go on for hours about these subjects, but time is limited, and we should also be back next month. Well, not sure how long exactly, but
we'll be back one way or another. We'll be back.
We'll be back shortly, and we will be doing a review of the film Chappie. And we both have a lot to. We will both have a lot to say about that.
I'm sure we will.
Stay tuned to the audience, and thanks for listening.
Yep. Again, the website is tmpodcast.com. Check it out and subscribe to the feed. Take care.
Take care.
Today's episode of Themes and Memes was recorded on the 4th of April, 2015.